We'll have an invocation by Mr. Darren Guidry. It was Gerald Michelle. He's not here. And a pledge of allegiance by Mr. Carl Harding. Would everyone please rise?
Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you be over the council this evening as we do the business before us. We ask that you pray for all those people who, are struggling with flooding issues and might have had issues in the recent rainfall or any future rainfalls to come. Let us work together to continue to improve our drainage systems for the future of our parish. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, Darren. We'll call the meeting to order of Wednesday, June 24, 2020 at 6 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Michelle? Mr. Amadane?
Here.
Ms. Domingue? Here. Mr. Darren Guidry? Here. Mr. Babin? Mr. Dirk Guidry? Mr. Charles Clare?
Here.
Mr. Navy? Mr. Harding?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you, ma'am. Approve the minutes of the regular council session held on May 27, 2020. Move Mr. Dirk Guidry. Second, Ms. Jessica Domingue. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Distribute the minutes of the regular council session held on June 10th, 2020. We've done that. Accounts payable, approve the accounts payable list for 6/15/2020 and 6/22/2020. Move Mr. Danny Babin, second Mr. John Amity. All in favor? Any? Show one abstention, Mr. Darren Guidry. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion carries. Manual checklist in May 20, 2020. Move Mr. Dirk Guidry. Second, Mr. John Davy. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion carries. Item 1 on the general business. Discussion of possible action regarding planning procedures for the soccer field behind Southland Mall. Okay, if anybody wants to speak on it, if not, I'll have a couple of speaker cards.
That's what I was going to say. I think we have people.
Okay, Mr. Gerald Atkins, 109 Brandon Drive. State your name and address for the record, please. And push the button to light to activate your mic. There you go.
Okay, my name is Gerald Adkins, 109 Brandon Drive, and I would just like to reiterate at this time my concern for the soccer fields, the same as I voiced last time, and that is the configuration of the fields and the drainage and the impact that it's having on the neighbors because of the closeness to the property back there. And that's the only remarks I would have at this time until I hear anything further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Jamie Rhodes. Please state your name and address, please. Would you step back for a second so she can clean the mic? Sorry about that.
My name's Jamie Rhodes. I live at 15 Cambridge Circle. I took some pictures. I think they were passed around today. I'm the one that also took them the last meeting. This is my backyard this morning after the rain came in. So my biggest concern is the water that's going to be pushed on us. We had talked to one guy that was working the field, and supposedly the water is supposed to be pushed away from us, but as you can see, we're getting a lot of that water toward us. That's one of my biggest concerns, and the other concern is the privacy. I have nothing against the soccer field being there, but we're losing a lot of our privacy, and we would like to get a wooden fence to protect our privacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. Mr. Michel, you put this on the agenda. Would you like to speak on it?
Yeah. Is anybody here from HTSA? Okay. Now, are they on the agenda to give a presentation at a later time, or do you want them to do it right now?
He can, he didn't fill out a speaker cord, but I have no issues if he wants to speak.
Okay. Please.
Let her clean the mic, please. State your name and address, please.
My name is Kevin Kaiser, 129 Ziegler Avenue, Houma, Louisiana, 70360. All right, I was invited here by Mr. Michel to just kind of give an update on the mall soccer fields. We started meeting with Terrebonne Parish. We met with David Rome. I want to say Jeannie Bray was there too, and Joan Scheck-Snyder prior to March 2019 to discuss soccer fields at the mall. For many, many years, we've been playing soccer at the lakes. We just have outgrown it, and it's not a permanent situation. We are blessed by the landowner to use those fields, but the agreement that we have with them is in 30 days, if they were to give us notice, we would have to leave those fields. Thankfully, he's not done that yet, and we are blessed to continue to use those fields. So we've been looking for a permanent home for a long time. So the mall approached us with the property between JCPenney and the neighborhood along Bayou Gardens as a potential site. Concurrently, we worked with Terrebonne Parish to get the Bayou Country Sports Park going, and it's been a blessing to us as well. And so having 80 total teams, 63 rec teams, 4 academy teams, and 13 competitive teams, we just don't have enough room to practice and play games at the lake. So that's how the mall came to be. So we started meeting with Terrebonne Parish officials over a year ago, and we met with their offices. We talked about the drainage issues in the Bayou Garden area, and we talked about adding a big retention pond so that we could get some dirt out of the property to shape our fields, and also help alleviate some of the drainage in that area. It's taken a long time, too long for us. So on March 13th, 2019, 4:08 p.m., I sent an email to David Rome saying that the Houma Terrebonne Soccer Association would not pursue excavating that pond, but we would leave that area there should the parish want to develop that pond to help with drainage. And so it progressed. A year later, we had finally signed an agreement with the mall, and we started. Throughout this time, we had meetings and contact. On February 18th, 2019, so that was more than a year ago, I had sent a plan to Joan and Jeannie, basically showing that we would create 6 full-size soccer fields. We had not addressed the drainage yet, but showing the shapes of the field. Those shapes have never changed. So we continue to go. We never were told we needed a permit because we're not adding any pervious concrete or hard surfaces to that field, to that lot. All we're doing is dirt work, reshaping the earth. So we're not increasing any runoff. We're actually reducing the runoff somewhat because we are lengthening the path of the drainage, of the water, by adding swales and ditches to the field. So we started construction around March, April of this year. And around April 30th is when we got a phone call from Mr. Gerald Atkins. And I called and talked with him. Our contractor met with him, and we thought everything was good. On May 4th, at about 5:15 p.m., our contractor met with a group of the neighbors, I think about 8 of them, and discussed things with them. And again, we left the meeting impressed that, we were under an agreement that everything was good. On May 18th, we had a rain event. While we were constructing, and Mr. Gary Johnson called to say, hey, look, some water went in my yard, some dirt went in my yard. We talked with him. Again, we left thinking everything was good. And it wasn't until around the beginning of June that we were told anything to the contrary. And then I found out the day before the last council meeting that this was actually on the agenda, and so I tried my best to get here, and I just couldn't make it. So I apologize to you all for that. In that time, we received an MS4 from Mr. Chris Pulaski. That was on June 10th at 2:38 p.m., basically saying that we had not done a stormwater pollution prevention plan or provided the parish with any drainage drawings. By the end of that day, June 10th, we had supplied the parish with our plans, and a week later, we had supplied, on June 17th, the parish with our SWIP, our Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. That was approved, reviewed by Morris P. Hebert, and approved on June 23rd at 2:50 p.m. I got an email from Ms. Brooke Domingue saying that our drainage and SWIP was approved by Terrebonne Parish.
Kevin, can I ask you a question? And you may have said it and I may have missed it. Why did y'all decide against the retention pond? You said in 2019, y'all sent a letter to the parish saying y'all weren't going to pursue the creation of the retention pond.
So the retention pond was brought to us by David Rome and Terrebonne Parish as a possible solution to help with the current drainage issues. Pre-soccer fields, there's drainage issues there. I apologize for hitting the microphone. That additional, we were in favor of letting the parish dig that pond to give us that dirt to shape our fields better, to basically sweeten up our fields. But we had a professional surveyor survey those fields, and we determined that we could progress without that additional dirt. Okay. And so we have shaped our fields. We have not added any sand. We're going to add sand to them to help soften the fields, help with some drainage. Yeah, we don't need it. That's the reason why we. Okay. But we have left it there as an option in case the parish would like to pursue it. They would need to get with the mall and work out a deal between the mall and the parish. And I think what we've estimated is about 6,400 cubic yards of dirt. And again, that's we're not going to spend money to dig that. Okay, and it's my understanding that the drainage plan has been approved by the parish at this point. That's correct. And has anybody looked at it today? And I realize today is just like the worst possible day to look at it. But sure. But have y'all looked at it today? And I haven't been out there, but I have been out there previously. And in the back of the residents' yards, there are 2 catch basins, which tells me there must be a drainage servitude in their backyard, which makes sense that they're getting water in their backyard. That makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm sure they get water in their backyard every time it rains because there's catch basins there. Okay, and it's
kind of hard to tell the context of these pictures. I mean, the one with, on the street there with the catch basin, you can tell, but those two top pictures, I'm not quite sure what the context is because I haven't seen it directly. And I don't know if anybody can shed any light on how long did this stay like this? Did it recede? Is this the worst picture? And did it recede afterwards? Is there anybody in the neighborhood who can comment on that? Do you mind if he comments, Kevin?
That's fine. I'll just stand to the side.
Thank you.
Stand back, please.
I actually.
Stand back, please.
My-
Stand back.
I had actually took them pictures this morning, right after the rain had slacked a little bit to walk out there. It started raining again. I went back inside. For about 2 hours, it had been raining pretty good. Well, Gerald Atkins lives behind me. He said he went back out there, because when I went out there, we still had about 4 inches of, before it filled up in the drain. But when he went out there, it had stopped draining because it was completely full and the water was just sitting. Now, that was a few hours. Now, after lunch, it had drained out of my yard, but the street still had a little bit water in it, but it was starting to drain again. But it had drained out, but we were never getting that kind of water in my yard before. Before they started, they used to have a lot of holes in that field. They used to hold a lot more water. And behind my house, the dirt was a little bit higher, and we had woods right there, and they had a lot of stuff in there where it kind of boundaried, I guess, the water from coming our way. Now, since they moved a lot of that water kind of comes just through there, and that ground's soft right now, so it's eating up that dirt. My idea was maybe put a little levee, around the side of the neighborhood right there, just to hold that water from coming our way. That would help that water from coming that way and bring it toward Bar Gardens like they want to. Thank you.
Okay, and, thank you. And, I'm no drainage expert, okay? But with the rain that we had today, if this afternoon it had drained down, that's probably a good thing. And as a parish government, we have to depend upon the people who are gonna, look at that and determine if the drainage that's put in is appropriate, and they have done that. So my big question now is, their privacy issue. Are y'all gonna address that in a manner that's gonna be neighborly and appropriate for the neighborhood?
I mean, we can discuss that, but we're putting up a fence on the mall property. The mall is helping us do that. That's another reason for us to be building soccer fields at the mall, is because they're actually matching us some of our construction dollars, and they are putting a fence up around the entire property. It's not going to be a privacy fence, but it's going to be a fence to keep people off of the fields and us in the fields. I mean, there was only a little bit of trees that we took down. Their fence, their property was open to begin with. So I'm not sure why it's our responsibility to build them fences.
I don't know that it is, but basically though, you're taking away their privacy, so to speak, because they had nothing behind them before. And does that make it your responsibility? I don't know that it does. But you're already building a fence back there. And my suggestion, for whatever it's worth, is that y'all can take the infrastructure of that fence for virtually no more money and make it to where maybe they could put their own boards on it, and have their privacy fence without you footing the whole bill or without them footing the whole bill.
Yeah,
So-
we are working with the mall, and the mall prefers to stay off of their fence line and have a buffer between. So we will not be connecting to their fences.
Okay.
And I would feel uncomfortable going onto their property and let's say the fence falls down, whose responsibility does it become to fix it? You know, there's be some liability on our part if we build them a fence that we would have to check with our insurance company. You know, it's not as simple as building a fence anymore, unfortunately. People don't always see eye to eye on how those things work.
Okay. All right, and is anybody here from the engineering department? Whoever approved the drainage?
The email was from Brooke Domingue and Joan Scheck-Snyder.
Okay. All right, so, they're the contact people. If y'all are still concerned about the drainage, I would contact Ms. Joan Scheck-Snyder with the engineering department, and because now she has information on it. Before, she basically didn't have any information on it. So, I appreciate you coming here on behalf of Home of Terrebonne Soccer Association and answering questions.
You're welcome.
Does anyone have any other questions that they'd like to bring up regarding this?
Can I mention one more thing before I step aside? There was mentioned a levee. We actually did build a little bit of a spoil bank in the back corner of the property to kind of help alleviate any water runoff. And we are complying with the SWIP of leaving a minimum 10-foot vegetative space to reduce our runoff of our soils. We don't want to lose any mud into the neighbor's yard.
Sure.
One, we don't want to mess up their yard, and two, we need that for our field. So,
Sure.
we don't have enough money or dirt to build a levee along the entire way, but we did build a small levee where we did find an immediate need to build one.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I don't know, he wants to come up and speak. You may want to
Excuse me, point of order. He's already had his speaker card, and he's come up once since then. So,
Well,
If you-
I'm asking him the question if he has anything else. I'd like for him to come up on my light. He's not going to be long.
just keep it very brief, because we can sit here and go back and forth all night long.
He did say about the barrier with the fence. My concern is, they said the fence is gonna be right there against my property, because the soccer field is gonna be right against my property. They're saying within 2 feet of the property line is the first soccer field. That was my question.
Okay, and that's not what he just said. He said they were building it off a bit. I don't know how far, but, Kevin, if you can just do a final response to that, and we'll be done. I appreciate everybody coming out. And I'm glad at least we're on track and the parish is aware of what's going on.
Certainly. To say that we're 2 feet off, I'm not sure, but we are definitely going to use our property that we have leased from the mall. The soccer field itself cannot be 2 feet from his property. We have to have sidelines, enough for players to not run into a fence. We need places for our fans.
How far is the fence going to be from the property line? Do you know that?
I don't know.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, that's what I need to know. I appreciate you coming, and if I probably have your phone number, but if I could
You
get
do.
your phone number and,
Feel free to contact me.
okay, thank you very much,
Yep,
Kevin.
you're welcome.
Thank y'all all.
Is, seeing no further lights? Where? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Domingue,
Yeah, just a quick question, since,
turn your, I didn't see your light.
no, sorry. Since Mr. Rome's not here to answer any of the questions, could this soccer field construction be paused until he can go out and inspect and see what's going on with their drainage and things like that? I mean, is that possible? Because it sounds like the neighbors are pretty upset about it.
They are upset about it. The parish has gone out and the soccer association has now put forth a study. the soccer association is not building structures except for the fence, and I don't know when is that going to be. Is that still a couple of weeks away on the fence? Can you just nod? Okay, all right. So there's nothing that they're building. All they're doing is preparing the soil and all that. And you know, they know we can talk to Dave, but the engineering department has already approved what they're doing as far as drainage is concerned. And so I, you know, and they're not going at the speed of light. They're not going to finish that in the next few weeks. I really don't see any reason, as much as I'd like to, I don't see any reason to hold them up for that.
Okay.
Mr. Babin.
Just as a suggestion, the neighborhood asked about a privacy fence, and you said that you and the mall were entered into some kind of agreement that y'all gonna share the bill on that. Just as a recommendation, why don't you check and see what the cost would be between a wooden fence and the cyclone fence that you were gonna put up? And you may be surprised to see that it's very little, if the same amount of money. And that serves the purpose of having a fence and also providing the neighbors with the privacy that they're asking for. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Mr. Pulaski.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I just, in response to Ms. Domingue, so yes, the engineering department did approve the plan, so it's kind of a construction site right now. So as with any construction site, we have the MS4 code compliance officers, and they can go by and just ensure that the measures that are identified on those plans are in place in the field to prevent runoff and things like that. So be sure, we'll let David know, and he can have his guys go out there. And hopefully we'll have an MS4 compliance officer in the planning and zoning department here pretty soon too.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, see no further lights.
And just Jessica, thanks for asking, and I appreciate everybody's comments, Mr. Babin and Mr. Pulaski. Thank you all very much.
Item B, discussion and possible action relative to removing the Recreation District Number 23 from under parish oversight. Mr. Amity.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After some discussion with one of my colleagues and the chairman of the Rec 2, I'm going to make a motion that we hold this over to our next council meeting, which is going to be 3 weeks on July 15th.
Have a motion by Mr. Amity to hold it over till our next meeting, second by Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, the motion carries, but we have a speaker card. Mr. Jeff Tuton, would you still like to speak? State your name and address, please.
Jeff Tuton, 426 Destiny, Houma. I just wanted to address y'all tonight. We're working on a business plan for two different projects. One is the sports park out on 311, and the other is to merge that plan with our 8 family parks that we have. And you know, right now I've met with a couple of councilmen, and I expect to meet with some more. We're going to come up with a comprehensive plan, meeting with administration, with the council people, and just to get this thing moving along. Right now, just as a reminder, we have the softball facility is complete, you know, playable day, night, whatever. The baseball facility is complete other than lights. And, you know, the soccer facility is out there, and, you know, with the restroom and concession and you know, we have a certain number of fields, but we got a lot of room out there to do some more, just depending, you know, what the parish needs. And you know, we're going to do that. We just let the contract for a family day park with a splash park out there. And I think all the details are done, and we're actually going to construction on it right now. And I tell you, it's going to be really nice. I think everybody, we had a choice out there to do the splash park or put the lights up at the ballpark. So we decided to go with something that would serve the whole parish. Now, that park out there is going to it's for the parish, and it's going to serve the whole parish. And Recreation 2-3 has the various parks, which I think y'all are probably all familiar with. But the long and the short, I'm not going to wear everybody out, but 2 weeks from tonight, we plan on making a presentation with, with the business plan, how we plan to do it, and who we've met with, and hopefully before then we can talk to each one of you. If you have any objections or suggestions, be glad to hear them. And just like to thank you all for everything, and with that issue we pulled off tonight, we can handle that in 2 weeks.
Thank you. I see Mr. John Navy would like to speak.
Yeah, we're working on it now, and we have the general outline of how we're going to do it, and who's going to work for who, and who's going to direct what, and everything out there. But that is a parish park. It's not a Recreation 2-3 park. The parish owns it, and we're not going to probably do any more capital improvements, but we're going to do all the maintenance. We have a building full of equipment. We have the guys been doing it for years now, and we plan on continuing to do that, and a cooperative effort between the parish and Rec 2-3, and have a really first-class facility out there. We've got the road all the way through. If you haven't been out there, go take a ride. Now, I don't know about today. It might have flooded, but anyway, go take a ride, see what we got, and there's a lot more that we're going to do, just depending on funding and timing and everything else.
So Mr. Touton, 3 weeks is good enough for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Derek Guidry.
Yeah, Mr. Jeff, thank you for coming, and thank you for all that you guys do. It looks like all the stars are starting to line up together, and I'm looking forward to the last piece of the puzzle, which is once we get our operational plan, I think we're going to be rocking and rolling, and I appreciate you guys, what you're doing.
Thank you very much, and we'll be ready to go at the next council meeting.
Thanks, Mr. Jeff.
Ms. Domingue?
I'm sorry.
Hey, Mr. Jeff, just to clarify, you said that you and Rec 2-3 are working with the parish to come up with a plan. So can you clarify who in the parish are you working with?
Primarily Gordy.
Okay.
Working with him, but we're working with anybody, and we're glad to do it.
Okay, so just to clarify, President Dove and Rec 2-3 are coming up with a plan.
Rec 2-3 is coming up with a plan that we expect him to approve, but if he has objections, we'll work it out.
Okay, thank you.
And, I've been in contact, and I don't know, perhaps some other council members have shared ideas as well. So I think they're pulling all of those ideas together and working on a plan that is doable and workable. Thanks.
Mr. Harding.
Thank you. Actually, I was actually prepared to actually hear this particular case, and I'm sort of like you. I'm trying to figure out, the language that's actually being spoke and who's actually making the preparations for this deal. I'm glad that you're including that. I'm glad that 2-3 is actually doing something that's for Terrebonne Parish. So that's one thing, and we just finished something that people are in agreement with the assumption that Terrebonne Parish totally is in agreement with it, and I'm pretty sure that the plan that you're going to present to Mr. Dove, and hopefully that we have some input in it, will go in conjunction to all of the rec districts, and that's my point, because It's no secret. Rec 11 is in a different situation from what that is, and I would like to have Rec 11 have the same circumstances that they're put into. You know what I mean? Actually, I was prepared a little bit, and it's something simple, and I'm gonna be finished with this. It's a simple thing as apples and oranges. Bittersweet, a lot of juice. If it's not fair, it should leave a bitter, sour taste in everybody's mouth. So therefore, we want this to be fair to everyone. Nothing against that. But when they say Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, it says Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, and I want the same benefits for Rec 11 as being done for 2-3. I would not be a representative for the people in Rec 11 if I don't open my mouth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Any more lights? Seeing no further lights, we'll move on to item C. Okay, motion to go to public hearing, Mr. Danny Bavin. Second, Mr. Derek Guidry. All in favor? Any opposition?
Thank y'all.
6:30, public hearings. An ordinance that will rename Senator Street as Percy Gabriel Lane. Public once. Public twice. Public 3 times. Move Mr. John Davy. Second, Mr. John Amity. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion carries. Motion adopt, Mr. Navy. Second, Mr. Amity. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Item B is an ordinance to amend ordinance number 9099 in order to perform technical corrections to delete the verbal descriptions for precincts numbers 40 and 109. Public once. Public twice. 3 times. Motion to close, Mr. Darren Guidry, second by Mr. Danny Babbitt. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion to adopt, Mr. Danny Babbitt, Darren Guidry. Second, Mr. Danny Babbitt. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion carried. Item C is an ordinance to amend the Terrebonne Parish Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 7, Section 7-5A to mirror Louisiana Revised Statute 29:727D as amended in 2018 by removing the automatic 30-day expiration on declared states of emergency in Terrebonne Parish, and to make that amendment effective retroactively. Public once. Public twice. Public 3 times. Motion to close, Mr. Dirk Guidry. Second, Ms. Jessica Domang. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Motion to adopt, Mr. Dirk
Second.
Guidry. Second, Mr. Gerald Michelle. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion carries. Item D, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of Terrebonne Parish so as to rezone from R1, Single Family Residential District, to C2, General Commercial District, lots A and B belonging to Bayadu Rentals LLC and situated at 8338 and 8342 Main Street, Houma, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. Bayadu Rentals LLC applicant. This rezoning, as adopted in committee, calls for a public hearing on July 15, 2020. So we will do the public hearing on July 15. Motion to go back in regular order, Mr. Dirk Guidry, second, Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion carries. Okay, item C, consider action naming and appointing members of the Terrebonne Parish Diversity and Inclusion Task Force. Mr. Navy. You want to make a motion to appoint? Okay, motion by Mr. John Davy to appoint members of the Terrebonne Parish Diversity and Inclusion Task Force.
Second.
Okay.
You want to call the names out, Sue, if you don't mind?
Members of the Diversity Board include Mr. John Navy, Mr. Carly Harding, Mr. Greg Harding, Ms. Orlando Williams, Ms. Margie Scobie, Ms. Margaret Cage, Ms. Diana Collins, Ms. Suzette Thomas, Judge Juan Pickett, Reverend Corian Gray, Chief Dana Coleman, Mr. Roosevelt Thomas, Mr. Jarrett Smith, Ms. Sochelle Harris, Mr. Justin Patterson, Mr. Travion Smith, Mr. Jerome Barkins, Ms. Sherelle Dodar Parfait, Ms. Kathy Ward, Mr. Troy Johnson, Representative Tanner McGee, Representative Jerome Zarang, Sheriff Tim Saunier, Councilwoman Jessica Domingue, Councilman Gerald Michel, District Attorney Joe Waits, former Senator Norris Chabert, Dr. Patrick Walker, Mr. Steve Ponville, and Superintendent Philip Martin.
Mr. Michel.
Yeah, just to make a point, I know that Representative Zarang's name and my name and Mr. Steve Ponville's name are spelled incorrectly, if it matters.
You could blame me.
Okay, and I do. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I just, in case it matters, if it's going to be printed anywhere, you might want to just
I'll make sure
correct that.
Suzette correct the spelling.
Okay.
Suzette, do a spell check.
Okay, okay, thank you. And, okay, we already have a
Okay, we
motion
have a
and second.
motion to appoint these members and a second. All in favor? Any opposition? Item D, a resolution action, Parish President Gordy Dove to execute and submit an application form to Louisiana Commission on Law Enforcement, U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Justice Programs for the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funds Fiscal Year 2020, allocation for the Juvenile Justice Department of the Consolidated Government and to address other matters relative thereto. Move Mr. John Amity, second Mr. Danny Babin, all in favor? Any opposition? Motion carries. Resolution, authorize the parish president, Gordy Dove, to execute an application form to the Louisiana Commission on Law Enforcement and the Administration of Criminal Justice, LCLE, fiscal year 2020, Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funds, CESF, by DOJ for the Houma Police Department, Parish Consolidated Government, and to address matters relative thereto. Move Mr. Dirk Gidry. Second, Ms. Jessica Domingue. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion carries. Item F, the resolution requesting the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, and Louisiana's congressional delegation to work together with a sense of urgency and unity to resolve and find viable solutions for cooling units in the Bayou Towers complex, high-rise, located in Houma, Louisiana. Mr. Michel.
Okay, I would like to read the resolution, if that's okay.
Fine.
I can find it. Okay. This is a proposed resolution requesting the Department of Housing and Urban Development and Louisiana's congressional delegation to work together with a sense of urgency and unity to resolve and find a viable solution for cooling units in the Bayou Towers complex, also known as the high-rise, located in Houma, Louisiana. Whereas the Terrebonne Parish Council has concern for every resident living in Terrebonne Parish, and whereas the Bayou Towers complex houses approximately 300 elderly and disabled citizens, and whereas many residents of the Bayou Towers complex have complained about inadequate air conditioning and cooling systems, and whereas the health of many of the residents in Bayou Towers complex depends upon the quality and comfort of their housing, and whereas the Department of Housing and Urban Development is responsible for the maintenance of the Bayou Towers complex, and whereas each member of the Terrebonne Parish Council wishes that this issue be resolved for the residents of the Bayou Towers. Now therefore be it resolved that the Terrebonne Parish Council requests that the Department of Housing and Urban Development, Senator John Kennedy, Senator William Cassidy, Representative Steve Scalise, and Representative Garrett Graves work together with a sense of urgency and unity to address and resolve the air conditioning problem at the Bayou Towers complex. And I would like to make that motion.
Okay, we'll acknowledge your motion after Mr. Harding.
Yes, thank you. That's written up rather good. And really, I must almost honestly say that I totally agree with it. But there's one problem that we have, and then one problem that it actually was addressed within this council, on TV and in the newspaper and wherever else. It was about the procedure. And I would like to know, let the other members of the council know that there's a meeting that's normally held at the high-rise tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And the process that we have within consolidated government are similar to the process that is done through the high-rise. They will have a meeting and they will have discussions. Any problems that they have, they would actually have that discussed. I would prefer to actually have given them an opportunity after all of this was had been put into the media, and when they have their meeting tomorrow, and we're having this motion put before us today, I would actually, on that point, would like to see this held over. Not that I disagree with it, but I want to have everybody understand that we appoint those people that are on the board from Terrebonne Parish representing the members of the high-rise and residents of the high-rise and residents of Senator Circle. So therefore, we already have someone there in place, and then those complaints, and we found through our dealings with HUD and the lady at the high-rise, that there is a reporting thing, and there are other issues that they have there, and they have to be addressed through that particular council, committee. And that committee would actually make the recommendation to HUD. Now, if that comes in to go along with Mr. Michel, or Mr. Michel wants to attend that meeting, make that proposal with them, and they can go in conjunction with Mr. Michel and have a total representation of Terrebonne Parish. I think if Mr. Michel wants to pin a badge on him, I'm not going to help him pin a badge on himself. Thank you.
Okay. I put this on there on the agenda today because there is no more time. These people are, and first of all, just for the sake of clarifying, there have been at least one person whose air conditioner has been fixed. There have been several whose air conditioners have not been fixed. For us to put them through any further delay than we have to is unacceptable, and I am not willing to do that. And you know, if you are, there's nothing I can do about that. Now, the second thing is that when this was being filmed the other day, the president of the Home of Terrebonne Housing Association Authority drove up and admitted or said that the problem was money. And if the problem is money, the Home of Terrebonne Housing Authority is not going to be able to handle that problem. It's going to take HUD, and it's going to take the federal government to do that. And the number that was thrown out was $8 million. Again, I don't know how accurate that was, but that's the number that was thrown out when this was being discussed in a most eloquent manner by the president of the Home of Terrebonne Housing Authority. This has been in the hands of that authority for years, and some would argue decades, and for us to wait longer is irresponsible and is neglect to our seniors and the disabled in this parish.
You want to speak, Mr. Arden?
Yes, thank
The
you.
light's still on.
And we don't have to go back and forth with this. I think, and it's the bottom line. What we're trying to say here is we want to represent Terrebonne Parish and the people. We overstepping the boundaries of the people that's already there. I understand 24 hours tomorrow. You know what I mean? We understand $8 million. When those $8 million are going to be available, we still have time. I'm not saying that there are not any problems at the high-rise. I'm saying that it goes back to Mr. Michel being out of order, not going through the process, and going to the board properly. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying to the people that are out there, because I represent every. Mr. Michel, you got to turn your light on before you talk. Understand that?
Sir, I didn't say a word. Don't address me.
So
Babin?
to finish, what I'm saying is the fact that we should let the process go into play. One more day. let's be represented through the actual process that we should go through. Do not leave these people we already have appointed there. We're overlooking them, overstepping them, and saying they're not doing their job. If that happens that way, we might as well get rid of that board. Thank you.
Mr. Bavin?
Yeah, I didn't want this to get out of hand, and I don't think it will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see no reason. This is a recommendation or a resolution from this council, just asking them to take a look to try to solve a problem. I don't think that this is usurping any authority of that board. That's my personal opinion, Carly, okay? Were procedures handled wrong? Possibly so, but we can't go back and change that now. But as a board, if we feel like the people in the high-rise have a problem with the air conditioning, all we doing is appealing to a higher authority to help that particular board. Now we have the meat of, if you will, the parish council in conjunction with that particular board. So I think that's the intent of this. I don't think it's to usurp any of their authority. That's my opinion anyhow. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Darren Guidry.
Now, you know, I'm not going to discuss, I'm not going to look backward. I'm going to look forward. And it seems like we might have, we obviously, or at least it appears to be, that there's a problem in a facility in Terrebonne Parish. Now, and I know it said we fix one person's air conditioning and not another. And I don't know the mechanics of this building, but most buildings of that size have a universal chiller. They have one chiller on the top of the building that in fact, Councilman Amity probably knows more than I do, that I would think that there's a chiller. I don't know how they could fix one person's room. So I think just either they pull down the shades in that one person's room and it's cooler and they think, but they pretty much have to do an $8 million chiller on top of the building if they really want to fix the problem. And that seems like where the problem is. Now, moving forward, the key is, how do you make that happen? And this is where we have disagreements. Is the resolution from the council being sent to these people going to make a difference? Are they going to say, I don't know why the council's doing this, because they, you know, why did this come from HUD? Or are they saying, oh, it's just a squabble between two boards? Or is it better to get with HUD and do something together to say the housing authority and the council together are sending this? And there may be somebody at the feds in particular in Washington we should be sending this to. I don't know if, you know, I understand that from a council perspective, when it's us, we do this, we send a resolution and we send it on behalf of the council, and sometimes we'll do a unanimous second. But the key is, how do we get response for this? And if, you know, waiting a day, the key is you got one shot. And so if we send a resolution to the wrong people with the wrong message, then it doesn't help get the chillers fixed. So I don't know what that is. If, you know, I know working together with the two organizations, at least we won't have them saying, oh, these people are squabbling, you know, and not paying attention to it. I don't want it to be a peeing match between two groups. I would rather us be together and trying to get this fixed. That's the ultimate thing. We need to get it fixed, and we need to focus on that. And, you know, at this point, forget about what happened in the past. Let's see if we can get these chillers fixed. That's my opinion. Thanks.
Mr. Harding.
Yes, and thank you, Darren, for perhaps getting to my point. It's the fact that, you know, man, we have more weight, and it's only 24 hours. If we have been having existing problems for a number of years, what's the difference 24 hours going to make? And then some of this stuff is about hearsay. And to the point, to my investigation, the initial person that made the complaint has not come forward yet. So they have to pull all the documents, present all the complaints that they actually have to the board. And once that's actually done, then the board can go in conjunction with Mr. Michel, the board, District 2, you know what I mean, And together they can write to Gillies and Graves and Kennedy and all these people. So then it makes more of a consolidated effort instead of us just sending one and HUD just staying where they are. So that's basically what I'm trying to do, is get everyone together. And it's just only 24 hours tomorrow. We've been having 6, 7, 8-year problems in 24 hours. It shouldn't hurt anything. That's all I'm saying. Nothing against it. I agree with that. But the agreement I don't have with the portion of it is the fact that we're not including HUD. And they have a meeting tomorrow at 3 o'clock. It's rather premature, 24 hours. That shouldn't be hard.
You done? Mr. Harding?
Yeah, I'm done.
Mr. Dirk Gidry?
Yeah, what I've seen with those thermostats says on 80 degrees when the temperature was set for 60 and it's 80 degrees, it seems that there's a problem in this building, especially if one person says the air conditioning got fixed and another one didn't. We have a problem. The deal is, Mr. Harding, there's a meeting tomorrow at HUD, but we don't meet again for 3 more weeks. And the summer is hot, and it takes the federal government a long time to get the ball in motion. So if we can get this ball in motion today and not wait another 3 weeks to send this letter during this hot summer, I think it would be not good for anybody to vote that we don't do this. It should be a consensus where it's a unanimous decision that we worry about old people, not old elderly people. I'm not going to say old, but elderly people. We can't live like this today. If this was your grandma, your grandpa, your uncle, or your aunt sitting in 80-degree weather, in an apartment building, this is not good. These are elderly people. They can't take the heat like a young person can. And I see no harm in us doing this motion because we sent it to all our federal delegation, and there should be no harm in our federal delegation getting this and HUD getting this, where we could come up and we can't wait another 3 weeks. We just can't do it. And I mean, it wouldn't be good if any of us voted against the elderly people. Thank you.
Mr. Navy?
I know we don't meet again in 3 weeks, but this is, and I can understand Mr. Harding's passion, and I understand Gerald's concern and passions too. But the problem is, we're talking about an antiquated building, first of all, building that really wasn't even built structurally sound and had problems before it opened up. And unfortunately, Mr. Harding is in a position that Ms. Williams was in, inheriting a problem that he's trying to resolve. Ms. Williams inherited that problem, and she tried to assist with some of the issues over there. Now Ms. Harding is trying to do the same thing. And I do understand that Mr. Harding, direction toward process and procedure. They do have the Housing Authority Board that's appointed by the parish president, and I do feel that they should be also included in this process. What we're trying to do here tonight, and just to come down the middle. I'm just trying to basically be in the middle. Maybe since they do have a meeting tomorrow, and if this resolution passed tonight, and that's Mr. Harding's district, maybe he should, if we pass that resolution tonight, present that to the Home Housing Authority to have them support and get on board with the process. Like I said, I'm just coming down the middle. My concern is that we don't meet in 3 more weeks. Also, that is a concern, but and I think, like I said, I think all of this got a little tested out of our direction because of policies and procedures that we have. But at the end of the day, once again, there is a Housing Authority Board, and they are governed under the direction, they're appointed under the direction of Mr. Dove. So they, to me, and I don't disagree with, and I don't think Mr. Harding started out saying he doesn't agree with the letter. I don't agree with what you're saying, Mr. Michelle, but they should be included in the process because they are part of the HUD initiation process, and it should go through them also. So maybe if we can do something, whatever you all decide to do tonight, have that direction where that could be presented to that Housing Authority Board, if Mr. Harding decides to do that, to have them on board to be as a support system, because it makes more sense also that it's coming from the Housing Authority Board, and they recognize that's a problem. The craziest thing I would hate to see is that we send a letter saying there's problems in HUD, well, the Housing Authority Board come back and send a letter saying there ain't no problem. So that's gonna be some disparity there, and there's gonna be some issues, I believe. So I think to come down the middle, maybe we need to, you know, as a council, express our concern with the elderly, do whatever we desire to do tonight, but have that also presented to that meeting tomorrow, to have them adopt something along with us to send to them, so we can all be in a cohesive, because I just have a funny feeling if we don't, that Housing Authority Board may say, well, we don't have a problem. And there is a problem. That's a problem, because you're dealing, once again, with an antiquated situation over there with the Housing Authority in that building. Thank you.
Ms. Domingue.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's input on this, and I agree with Mr. Navy. I'm going to suggest that we move to pass it tonight, contingent on what happens at tomorrow's meeting, that they approve it at tomorrow's meeting.
Mr. Michel.
Okay. First of all, there's something that's been said repeatedly, and it's inaccurate, and I just want to make sure that everybody knows that. In the process of all of this, I did address a member of the Housing Authority, and it was to no avail. So I don't want anybody to think that I went around their back, okay? And otherwise, Mr. Dirk Guidry kind of said what I wanted to say. There were two other things. Mr. Harding brought up the fact that it's been going on for 6, 7, 8 years. That's certainly a reason that we need to do it. Mr. Navy brought up an excellent point, because I truly believe that the Housing Authority does not know what to do with this, and they want help. And I think if we present them with this resolution, that this is going to be a tool for them to do what they want to do anyway. I don't think that they want those people living in misery. I think they want to solve the problem. And if we do this correctly, then we're giving them another tool to solve the problem. Because you know, this has gone on for a long time, and I think this may very well help that Housing Authority. It's not an attempt to usurp them, but to help them to get the problem done that's going to be helpful for the entire parish. Thank you.
Mr. Darren Guidry.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Navy, you know, had an excellent idea, and I think we could approve, if we approve this here tonight, we could ask Councilman Harding to present it to the Housing Authority. And I think we should request that perhaps they pass a similar motion and a similar resolution, and we could send both resolutions at the same time to these officials. And I think that might give us a little more bang, so they know the Housing Authority and the parish are all on the same page. This needs to be fixed. And I think that'll carry a little more weight. Just a suggestion, but I think it's a good idea to work together, you know? Thanks.
I'd like to make more. I'd like to second that motion.
Certainly.
Yeah, and basically that's what it amounts to. It's the fact that, you know, I mean, what we're trying to do is actually get some teeth in there. And then I've done some research also. Just recently this year, HUD came in and passed the building's inspection. Going back to what Mr. Navy is saying, we're going to send something out there. According to HUD standard, the building has passed. So we have to go there together with this effort that we have. I'm not saying I'm not for old people, and I really don't want to mention the fact that about old people and whose mothers and anything like that. I'm representing those people there, and I want the best thing for them, but I don't want them to be exploited and used. Thank you very much for your light.
Mr. Babin.
Jessica, did you make a substitute motion? Were you making a substitute motion to say that this would be contingent on them passing it tomorrow night? You did make a motion. Well, that's what I'm asking, because I would have seconded that motion if you made one.
I was going to call it in a minute, Danny.
Okay, all right.
I was going to call it.
All right.
Okay. Jerry, you want to speak?
I'll speak on the substitute.
Okay, well, we hadn't had a second on it yet. Okay.
I'll second the motion. That's why I asked. Okay.
So Jessica, you're offering a substitute motion to hold this over and present, to vote on it tonight, but present it to HUD at their meeting tomorrow if it passes tonight. Okay, so that's the motion by
I'll second.
Jessica, second by Mr. Babin. Okay, Gerald.
Okay, and my concern with that is simply that, you know, we're speaking as a council, but we're only gonna be concerned, and look, and I don't mean for this to sound harsh, and if it does, you know, clarify it for me, but, we're only going to vote to send this to the feds to have it addressed if the housing authority wants us to. You know, that seems to me, you know, not exactly the right thing to do.
Mr. Babin.
Yeah, I don't want to assume that the housing board is going to reject this just because we sent this. The Terrebonne Parish Council is saying that we have a problem and we want to help you address it. I just don't think that those people on that board would do that. So again, this is just an added tool for them to help make their decision. I would be very disappointed and dismayed if this board tomorrow would not say that they have a problem, okay? And that they are looking for not guidance from us, but support from us, okay? As John said, I think, it makes it a lot better when you have the weight of, if you will, if we have that much authority, the weight of the parish council along with the HUD board going to these people, okay? So it's a procedural thing more than anything else. And I don't think 24 hours is gonna kill any of us, nor do I think this board, the housing board would do it just to spite us. I think these people are more interested in doing the right thing for the elderly and everyone in that position. So that's why I made the second to Justice.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? And I agree with Mr. Babin. I think the housing board will definitely thank us for this. All right, moving on. Committee reports, Public Services Committee. Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped over it. Where is staff reports? I don't even have staff reports on this agenda. I'm sorry, we're back to regular order, okay. Staff report, drainage and pumps, generators and other projects, Mr. Toops.
Thank you, Council Chairman Trosclair. If you all refer to the reports that were submitted this afternoon, first item is Cannabis Drive at St. Louis Canal Road, and then also Westview Drive at St. Louis Canal Road. 2 weeks ago, I erroneously reported that we were waiting on Sleeka to run the electricity to those two pump stations, when in fact it's Energy. We did meet with Energy, and they advised that they would be installing the electrical power to both stations in about 2 weeks. So again, I apologize to Sleeka because last meeting, I did say it was Sleeka, and that was a mistake on my part. We have decided on the third site for the 30-inch pump, and that's going to be near West Side Boulevard. We're working on a discussion of exactly how we're going to put the pump sump and the water control structure there. Yesterday, the 112-inch diesel over hydraulic pump at Plantation Gardens went out. It was a hydraulic problem. We do have Associated Pump presently working on it, and we did get a portable pump brought to the site to assist during the repairs. We have one of 3 pumps down at Lashbrook due to a broken line shaft, and we are presently rebuilding that pump, and it should be reinstalled by the end of this week, weather permitting. D12 at Woodlawn Station, one 48-inch pump is down to one of the gearbox failures. We estimate we should have that pump station, that pump in that pump station working in 2 days. D51 Lered Street, there's a 16-inch diesel and a 12-inch electrical pump at that pump station. The electric pump has been pulled to repair a lower bearing. While we have the pump out, we're cleaning out the sump, and we brought a portable pump to that site for assistance during the repairs. Next is D73 Suzy Canal. 2 weeks ago, I reported that we did change the cooling coil on one of the pumps, and while we were at it, we said, let's order 2 cooling coils because both pumps are designed the same way. So we're doing preventive maintenance and we're changing the cooling coil on the second pump before it fails. And that concludes the drainage pump report unless anyone has any questions. One thing I'd like to report is with the heavy rains we had this morning, all of our pump stations were working on the floats as designed. We did have one pump station, the one at Industrial Boulevard, which is located right next to Thomas E. Marine. It did not keep up with the amount of water that was it got while we had about 8 inches of rain in a 4-hour period. So President Dove, David Rome, Carl Leday, and I have already begun preliminary talks to looking at increasing the capacity on that pump station. On the emergency generator reports, all the emergency generators were run yesterday. We have no issues reported. On to the capital projects report. On the Hanson Canal pump stations, we have pumps number 2 and number 4 operating on generator power as well as all the trash rakes. I did get an update from Entergy. All the right-of-way surveying is complete from Antio Court next to the Williams Pipeline Company plant, all the way to the pump station. The vegetation clearing is 95%. Entergy was to begin the installation of the 42 poles today, weather permitting, so I don't know if this weather, if they were able to start or not. Entergy is going to run about 1.6 miles of high voltage lines from Antio Court to the pump station. If you look at the Google map I have on the last page of the report, it shows where the electrical line starts and where it's going to terminate at the pump station. It's going to take 42 poles to run the power. And Entergy estimates that they're going to complete the power installation to the pump station as of July 31st, 2020. The next item I'd like to report on the Petite Caillou lock structure. Sea Level and GIS did a substantial completion inspection yesterday. They did create a punch list item, and GIS anticipates 3 weeks before we can turn over that pump station to the levee district for operation. And finally, on the Industrial Avenue Bridge project, we did sign the contract with Hard Rock Construction, and it was recorded, and we're in the process of setting up a pre-construction meeting as soon as possible. And that concludes my report unless anyone has any questions.
Mr. Navy?
Okay. And I really hope nobody take this personal, but today was ridiculous. And I've been hearing it for such a long time. I've been up here 9 years. Because of the amount of excessive rainfall and the amount of time, that's why it floods. Well, we didn't have more rainfall than this and didn't have the flooding like this. Something is wrong in these areas. I don't know what it is. I mentioned this 2 weeks ago or a month ago that we need to develop a transparent process to ensure that these pumps are on. Just because somebody tell me something, I don't know that. When I tell the residents the pumps are on, They ask me, how do I know? That's why I said we need to develop some kind of mechanism or get something that we can put to the public to be transparent that these pumps are on, when they kick on, when they kick off. You know, telemetry could do all this, they should be able to do that. Ain't no disrespect to nobody. Just because you tell me the pump's on, I mean, they told us the pump was on when they had all that flood on the east side during the hurricane. Guess what? The pump was broke. The generator was broke and all that. I'm not buying this no more. We got a problem, and this needs to be addressed, or I'm going to state a plea to the public. Now, you all need to come up here and really express your concern. That way, as taxpayers, maybe something will get done. This is ridiculous. I have gotten more calls today, and I swear to y'all, no lie, than I ever got during any storm event or hurricane. Today. And I've been here 9 years. Today. For a rain event. Something is wrong. I drove around these areas. I talked to several people. Something is wrong. I mean, the water was just stagnant. It wasn't even moving. Especially in the Dularge area down Hidalgo. They got destructions, look like in many places. It's something wrong, and it needs to be done. And if the citizens feel like they pleased with what's going on with the drainage, well, don't come up here. Don't come and express your feelings as taxpayers and really demand action, because this is ridiculous. And if all of you all up here are satisfied with what happened today, I apologize, but I am not. And if you all are not mad about today, then I take this personal, because maybe it's just my district that you're flooding out. But today was crazy, and it's ridiculous for this many calls or this many complaints during a storm event. I mean, I'm telling you, I have been through several hurricanes as a councilman and never got the call that I got today. It's like we're in a bowl. Why? Can somebody explain something to me? You know, it's to the point where I don't hear this, and no offense to you, Mr. Tooth, because this really predates you too. I am tired of hearing this. I heard it through the last administration. Oh, you know, we had X amount of excessive rainfall over a period of time. That's why it's flooding. Well, it's getting worse, y'all. And I promise you, if we can't take this rain event like it was today, oh, I dread for a hurricane. I pray to God we don't get no hurricanes this year. I ask for prayer for everyone, because we cannot take it if we couldn't take today. Now, that's my soap, and I'm sorry if I get offended with everybody, but trying to explain this to my constituents, they don't want to hear, Mr. Rome said the pumps are on. They are coming. They don't want to hear that crap, especially when that water just sitting there, you know? And I'm not personal. My daughter lives in Dirt District. Her van flooded today down Acadian Drive, you know? This is crazy. This is crazy. Something is wrong. No excuses. They need to do something. I don't know who need to do something, and I'm not attacking anybody. Yes, I am. Something needs to be done, okay? Because I'm not selling for this. I'm not running again. I'm term limited, so I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. But at the end of the day, that's ridiculous for Terrebonne Parish to settle for that kind of foolishness today. Thank you.
Mr. Dirk Gidry?
Yeah, John, I might have to agree with you on that we need to know when these pumps are running. Because, I mean, we taking somebody else's word, and we giving our word to our constituents that this pump is running. And when I'm telling them this, I'm having to take somebody else's word for it. If we could do telemetry and we could do all this other stuff, I mean, the levee districts lets us know when floodgates are open, closed. I think it's something that the parish should be able to do. And, John, I've been with you for 9 years. It's the most phone calls I've ever had. And I live down in Chauvin where we flood for hurricanes and all. I've had more calls today and got bitched out more today than any other time in 9 years. You know, the Acadian Drive area, it was inundated with water. I have a 3/4-ton truck that sets up high. I couldn't even go down all these streets because of the water was so high. I have a lady that we had this rainfall a couple of weeks ago after this little tropical storm. Her house flooded. She had water in her house. You know when she got back in the house? Sunday. You know when she got back out of her house? Today. How can you look at people and you got to feel for them, guys? You know, you got to feel, because it hurts. I know. I got no argument with a lady today about this, but she said, I don't know what it feels like. Well, let me tell you, I know what it feels like. I've got 18 inches of water in my restaurant. I've had hot water in my houses. You know what I mean? I know how these people feel. You know, when they walk in these houses and they got water, they add more water because there's tears coming out of their eyes, because they worked hard and they worked long to get what they have. To see us as Terrebonne Parish fail them and not have the adequate pump system. The pump system on the Acadian Drive and Industrial Pump Station needs a new pump station. It's outdated, it's antiquated, we need a new pump station. I talked to Mr. Dove about that this morning. In the meantime, he said that he's trying to get his hands on 240-inch pumps to put temporary pumps here. But I'm telling you guys, it's not good when you walk into somebody's house or you walk in and they're crying because they just moved back in their house Sunday and they're out of it again on Wednesday after doing all this hard work. It's sad. I mean, I know it was a lot of rain, but God, we need to try to do something to get this water out of these people's homes, you know. Like I said, and John, in 9 years, is the worst I've ever seen it, you know. It's the most phone calls I've ever seen of. I've never had phone calls like this for tropical storms, for hurricanes. It's something needs to be done, and you know, and I feel that we need to do something, and getting back with you, to let us know when these pumps are running, you know what I mean? Because I'm going to tell you, a while back, I had a situation where I had 2 houses flood down in Chauvin. And guess what? A lady called me and said, Dirk, it's 7 o'clock at night. I don't hear the pumps running. I said, baby, I said, it done rained so much. Man, the parish is on top of it. They got these pumps running. Well, about 9 o'clock, somebody else called me. Hey, listen, I live not far from the pump station, and I don't hear the pumps running. Well, I said, it got to be, you know what I mean? The parish has to have them running. Well, I got on the phone. I called Mr. Toops. Guess what? The pump attendant went on vacation, and nobody told him. Nobody came and done the pumps. I had 2 homes go underwater. That's sad when we, as Terrebonne Parish, is going to let homes flood because somebody forgot to tell somebody that the pump attendant was on vacation. Thank you.
Ms. Domingue.
Sorry, I was still on. Yeah, thanks. And you know, we had a lot of water in Homa Heights subdivision, which is in District 5. You know, we had you know, families' homes that had water inside of them, and you know, once again, to tell them that the pumps are on, I couldn't do that. I didn't know. We couldn't say anything. The water was stagnant. It was stagnant for hours and hours and hours and hours. It wasn't flowing. So for me to tell somebody a pump is on, you know, the water was not going anywhere. So I have a couple questions, and I wish Mr. Rome would have been able to be here tonight, and unfortunately he's not here tonight because I have a few questions. One would be about forced drainage, specifically for the Homa Heights. Is that something possible, Mr. Toops, that we could look into? Something that we can maybe get some of that water out, because we can't have what happened today. I mean, you know, there was families and kids, and you know, they've got water in their home, and you know, they're trying to clean all this up, but then where do they clean it up? Because there's 3 feet of water in the street, so there was literally no way to clean the water because it just was sitting. So if we could figure out how to force that water out, is that something possibly that we can look into?
Yes, ma'am. President Dove, David Rome, Carl Leday, and I had numerous conversations today. I also talked to Earl Hughes, who our emergency preparedness manager. Earl is going to talk to all the other parishes around the area and see what they're doing and see what we can do to improve our system. And you all are right. We got inundated by calls up on the 7th floor. Our drainage department got inundated by phone calls, and we had our people out checking all of the drainage ditches, all of the culverts. We were doing as best as we could. I know it's a lame excuse, but we had an extremely amount of rain in a short amount of time, and again, all of our pump stations were operating and were able to keep up, except for the one at Industrial Boulevard.
So, I'm sorry.
We are going to work on it, and we're going to do the best we can to improve what we have and to keep this from reoccurring.
So just one more question regarding the intercoastal. So it seems as though the intercoastal is very high right now. That could be contributing to some of these neighborhoods taking on more water than what they normally do. Is it possible that we could send somebody to go inspect the outfalls in the intercoastal? Because I know like one or two might have been checked, but the entire system, I'm not quite sure if it's been checked. So could we maybe see about going to see those areas and see what the levels are?
We could, but the majority of the intercoastal drains through the Houma Navigational Canal, and the water is high all the way up in the Houma Nav. So that's a combination of southerly winds and high tides. So I think in the long term, once the lock at the Bubba Dove is completed, that's definitely going to help. But controlling the water level of the intercoastal, it would be a very, very, very hard task to accomplish.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Darren Guidry?
My turn, okay. Well, first of all, Ms. Domain, you're right in the fact that when you talk about forced drainage, eventually, I don't see any way that Terrebonne Parish, every single neighborhood in Terrebonne Parish is going to have to be on some sort of forced drainage as the years go by. It's just with sea level rise and everything else and the amount of rain and the amount of water being dumped on us from various sources, I think that's something that we're probably all going to look at is all the areas of Terrebonne Parish. But, you know, getting away from pumps, one thing we can do is, you know, maintain our ditches. And one of the biggest problem in my district is overgrown ditches. And I know we've played back and forth with a vegetation contractor, but most of my calls in my district today has been, look at my ditch and it's weeds and everything growing up. How is this not slowing down the drainage? And I tell them, oh, well, we vegetation contracted, but they don't want to hear that. So we need to do something, even if we, send somebody in planning and zoning with a weed eater, I don't know, but, so I'm just a joke, Chris, just a joke, Chris. But we need to get it done. That is, so please, Mike, if you could pass that on, that is a priority, at least in my district, and I know other council people have got to be seeing it because we are way behind in our vegetation. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Guidry. And look, I apologize. David Rome was here. He was prepared to speak tonight. We checked his temperature at least 4 times. He was running 101 fever, so I told him to go home, not to come into the meeting out of concern. And David would have had a lot more to add in more detail than I could answer. So again, I apologize, but out of concern for everyone here, I thought it was best that David not come into the meeting because he was running a temperature.
Thank you. Mr. Babbitt?
Yeah, this was an unusual event. I mean, when you're going to get 10 inches of rain or whatever we had in a 4-hour period, each and every one of us had the exact same problem in every one of the districts that we represent, okay? We have pumps that we're not sure if they were on. Y'all points were well taken that we have to take your word for. A lot of times we are the voice to the constituents. So if we don't have the information, we are either putting out bad information or we can't put out any information. So that's not a good thing. We want to be the voice of Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government in each of the areas that we represent. Something was said about the rain event and hurricanes, and historically, you all know, Mike, we have more problems with rain events than we do with hurricanes. Hurricanes normally come in quick and dump a bunch of water, but it also goes out quick. These rain events that sit over us create a lot of problems. I would hope that we learn from each one of these events our strengths and our weaknesses and isolate them and instead of react, and I'm not accusing, I'm just saying, instead of reacting, that we plan for it in advance. We got a lot of big projects that took place in this parish, and they're all needed and very good projects. But we got a lot of fires, I'll call it, all over in each one of our districts that probably need to be addressed. You and I talked about 3 of them in the district that I represent today. We're going to talk to people tomorrow night about another one. I would just hope that we start taking a look at all of them and prioritizing those, and I think y'all are, but prioritizing those with rain events in mind, not just hurricane events in mind. And I think that might serve us all a little bit better. But again, we are the voice of administration for the most part because we are getting the call. This is my 5th year in here, and I got more calls today than I think I got in the whole last year of my consulate experience the last time. And we had some rain events and some events. It just seems like areas that never had water before are now experiencing a lot of water. And there has to be a reason for that. And again, the levees that we have, I'm a big advocate of the levees. We have a much higher level of protection now than we ever had before. But as somebody that's been in the seafood industry in Terrebonne Parish for 38 years, I know we have changed the hydrology of the water in Terrebonne Parish. And we've created, if you will, a forced drainage system where water maybe can't move to the south as fast as it used to before. So all of those things, we in the learning process, Dirk said it best a couple weeks ago, there's no book that came with the levee system. There's no book that comes with this. But all of the pieces of that puzzle now are starting to get together, and we need to take a look at it and evaluate it maybe in a different way. Look outside the box just a little. And that's not a criticism of what we're doing. I think we're doing as good a job as we can do, but with any job, I think they can be tweaked a little bit more. And if we can help with that as council people, hearing from the people that are having the problems and translating that to administration, I think it would make a better marriage, is all I'm saying. Again, 10 inches of rain in 4 hours, New Orleans would have been 12 foot underwater, okay? So we live in South Louisiana. Getting to the point that Darren mentioned, we live in South Louisiana, it's a subtropical area. Our drainage laterals are gonna get clogged up. And Mother Nature put a lot of them there, and I think we need to keep those clean, and it's only gonna help the pumps to have a reservoir to pump better. And we all know that a lot of people are gonna call and say, well, the pumps aren't on. Well, the pump cannot go on if it doesn't have enough reservoir capacity in front of it to keep it going, because it's just going to kick on and then kick off. So a lot of people are not hearing it, but mainly, and then I'm going to stop, but you mentioned something at the last meeting, and I want everybody out there to hear this. A lot of the pumps that we have are electric pumps with diesel backup. So you're not going to hear it like just a diesel pump that's running. The one at the end of Barataria Street by my office, I can hear when it's running, and I'm a block and a half away. But if it was an electric pump, we wouldn't be hearing it, but yet it would still be on. So sometimes silence doesn't necessarily mean that the pump is not operational. Okay, so and I'm not saying that all the cases that we got are like that, but everybody needs to know that a lot of our pumps now are electric with diesel backup. Thank you.
Mr. Harding?
Thank you. Yeah, we do represent the administration, but at this point right now, I think all of us are up here representing our constituents. I found that the best way to not have so many people address me because I live in an urban area and rather tight, and everyone know where I live at. So I had a couple people come by my house and say, well, man, even when I got a chance to take a break. And I truly want to represent all of Terrebonne Parish, and I have an urban and rural problem and such water. But like John said, that, you just can't tell a person they got water coming in their house that the pumps are on. They can't see that. They can't imagine that. When the guy knocked on my door, I said, well, look, you have to distinguish between water in your house and water on the road. And I go to a car dealership and let him know that I was checking his property. And it is difficult. After a while, the water goes down. But then we have maintenance that we have to do on our ditches. There are some people in the area of Linden Street. I'm not looking to make nobody mad, but I'm gonna tell it just like it is. They've been having a problem that I've actually inherited for a number of years, from what I'm told. I've actually made the complaint. Maybe we need to put more support into the drainage department, and perhaps the vegetation, like was said, these ditches that we have. I've been around Terrebonne Parish, and these ditches that's draining into other ditches, we need to take care of that. Vegetation is taking them over. It's creating problems, not just for the businesses, but then the residents also. So we really need to assess that. We have pumps. We have all the necessary needs. If we need to revamp and help Mr. Rome somewhere or another, we should spend money there. We spend nothing against recreation. We spend a lot of money on recreation. If we need to put more money in the drainage, that's where we need to be putting it at. We need to get our priorities straight. Thank you.
Mr. Navy?
You know, and it's my last time, just picking it back off what Mr. Harden said, and actually what Mr. Babin said, you know, and that's one of the things that I always really criticized when I first got on the council. We are too reactive. You know, we're just not proactive. And I think that, and since Mr. Harden mentioned that about the drainage department, look, if any department that I want to spend money on and beef up and put resources in, it'll be the drainage department. I don't know if the staff, if we have enough staff, if we have enough equipment. I don't know what the situation is, because maintenance is, with the drainage issue, maintenance should be year-round. I mean, we should be doing grass cutting and blowing out culvert, doing everything we can year-round consistently. And I could tell you in a lot of areas it hadn't been happening in my district, and I ain't trying to criticize anyone. But if we do need to beef up, Mr. Toops, resources in that department, I could tell you, to me, that department is the most important department in Terrebonne Parish, your drainage department, because that's when you're talking about tax-paying citizens' homes that we have to protect to make sure that they don't flood. So if we need to do something as a government, Candace, you the CFO, if we need to do something as far as finances, I mean, we have pumped hundreds of millions of dollars into our levee systems, you know, into our floodgates. And if we need to pump, and I think Mr. Babin said something like this earlier before the meeting, if we need to pump millions of dollars just into our areas to improve drainage, then that what needs to be done. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not criticizing anyone, because some of this stuff predates your appointment and some of it predates the administration before them. But it just can't keep going on, because I dread that if we keep going on, even when we leave here, we're going to continue to flood Terrebonne Parish residents. So if we need to do something as far as our drainage department to improve that process, then we need to do that. I have a quick question, because something was strange to me. When my phone went off about, I don't know, from Earl or whoever, about the flash flood warning, when it was over with almost, you know, what determines that to send messages out that you got a flash flood warning? Because I got mine after I got all these crazy calls, and after the rain event had inundated a lot of water. Why would that happen after? I thought that's a warning system to let you know before that you have a flash flood warning. Now, I got the other one later on, but the one that morning, and it's on my phone. I don't know if the rest of you all got it.
And shed some light. I asked Mr. Hughes about that, and he says, well, those are issued by the Weather Service, and the Weather Service waits until the police or authorities inform them that there's street flooding. And when they inform them there's flooding, the Weather Service puts out a flood warning. So basically, yes, it has to flood before you get the flood warning.
That is ludicrous. I have never heard. Somebody need to look into that. What the hell you send? I'm sorry. What the heck you sending me a warning for when the event is over with, when it's already has happened? I mean,
I sent one out
that
this morning.
All right.
Mr. Michelle, you have a light on, you want to speak? Mr. Darren Guidry.
Well, I want to say a lot of these, at least in my district, any of the problems I have definitely predated this administration. And I want to say we have done a lot, and it did show today in in the mitigation in a lot of our areas. We had one area we added an extra culvert to just in time, which, I mean, the residents were very pleased about that. My only complaint in my district, of course, my pumps are all working because they're new, whereas some of the other councilmen have older pumps that need maybe some updates. But mine is strictly, our maintenance of our ditches that we need to look at. But I want to give accolades to this administration because they at least care about drainage and at least a friendly ear. And, I always appreciate that. And, so I don't want to, from my perspective, I'm not criticizing administration. I guess I am as far as cleaning the ditches. But I know that's a problem, but, the buck stops always at the top. So we got to get that set. But we've gone leaps and bounds, at least in my district, in fixing a lot of the problems. And I've seen in some of the other councilmen's district what this administration has done. But like always, it's going to be a never-ending battle, and we're just going to be continue flood fighting. So, thanks.
Mr. Amity.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to echo what Mr. Guidry's talking about with the ditches, and I want to commend David Rome and Public Works because with the anticipation of that tropical storm that turned out to be not much, they did go to some of the requests I had for clearing the ditches because of the vegetation. We expected that might be. Another thing I would maybe suggest to my colleagues is drive your districts and look for undersized culverts. They've been there forever, and that's what I'm doing. I'm discovering that, people just throw a pipe, cover it up, make a driveway out of it, and it creates a bottleneck for that water to move. So I'm making a list on those. But just like with everyone, we have these issues. We need to be proactive, and I think that by us going to do some assessment, it helps the administration. But while I was out in the Schriever and Gray area today, drainage and roads had people out there looking at the ditches, making sure that things were going. So we don't want to just beat up on you guys, Mike. Your people are out there doing a good job, doing what they can. I want to acknowledge that. But then, too, we have people to answer to, and they're tired of the same answers. So, again, thank you guys for what you're doing, and we're going to try to do our part as well in helping to identify some of those spots. Thank you.
Mr. Dirk Gidry.
Yeah, Mike, I want to beat up on you a little bit, but after that, I want to go drink a beer with you at the bar. But, Chris, this goes to you. Acadian Point subdivision. I remember a couple of years ago when that subdivision was coming up, and I opposed the building of that subdivision because the water would come down and flood Terrace Street of all the same people that got flooded out today. And y'all told me, and y'all engineering department told me that that water was not coming that way. It was going towards Grand Kaya Road. Well, I was there today, and the water, it was like a waterfall coming out of that subdivision, going opposite of where you guys told me it was going to go. So I'm opposed to any more future construction in that subdivision because all we're going to do is pour a lot more water on these people. I know I've talked to Mr. Dove. I'm pretty sure he's talked to you about that Acadian Point subdivision. It's going to flood more people out if we build that subdivision, Chris, because y'all told me that that water was going to go to the front towards Grand Kaya Road. Well, it was like a waterfall coming out of that subdivision going towards the cement ditch. So, I mean, I got pictures of it, of waterfalls coming through there, and the people's yards were all flooded that never ever flooded there before because of this subdivision that's getting ready to build. We got to watch when we go into planning, and I was thinking about these people that with this soccer complex, we giving them the official okie dokie that it's not going to happen, you know what I mean? But y'all gave me the official okie dokie that this wasn't going to happen to me because I came and I fought for that. I went to the planning commission and all and fought this. And they had people from that neighborhood. And y'all said it wasn't going to happen. Well, guess what? The engineers from Terrebonne Parish were wrong. Thank you.
Mr. Toops.
I'm not here to beat up on you guys, but we got a problem, We have a problem with this. I mean, I don't know who studied this because the elevation on Grand Kaya Road is almost 12 foot. And probably when you get back to the end of the subdivision, at the bottom of the subdivision, it's probably 3 foot. How are you getting that water to go up that hill? I'm amazed. I just don't know how Terrebonne Parish engineers can say that water goes uphill, because I've never seen it happen unless it's pumped out. And this is a gravity drainage deal, and I just can't understand. I mean, we need to come up before we proceed anymore. I don't know if we're gonna get sued because we gave them the okay to go and do that subdivision. But in the future years, we're gonna have problems with that Acadian Point subdivision. You know, because how many lots is it gonna be? 168 homes? Yeah, we're gonna put 168 more homes on an area that's already flooded. And the engineers, like I said, they told me personally, and they told the people that came to the planning zone, that opposed this, that the water was not coming that way, and it was going the other way, and we all knew better. We're not engineers. We use our common sense, knowing that water does not go uphill, it comes downhill. So, I mean, please, Chris, see what y'all can do with that, because it's gonna be a problem in the future. We could go ahead and we could build more pumps on industrial pumps at the industrial site, but if we put more pumps and we put more cement, we end up with the same problem. Thank you.
You want to speak, Mr. Toops?
Yeah, I just want to say, every one of you brought up some very valid points, and I know they're true because I myself fielded some calls personally from at least 5 or 6 individuals, and it's very, very hard to talk to them and listen to them worry about their homes flooding. And again, Mr. Dove, Mr. Rome, Mr. Rory Sons, Mr. Carl Leday, and I had numerous phone calls and conversations today. Bottom line is, we just have to do better, and we will. And it's just going to take time. We're already talking about improving the Industrial Boulevard pump station, and that was just brought up today. But I hear your message, and we'll just do the best that we can possibly do with whatever funds Ms. Candace allows us to have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Put it on you.
Okay, I just want to say one quick thing.
Put it on you.
You know, the majority of the problems we have didn't surface in the last 3 or 4 years, okay? They've been accumulating over probably 30, 40 years. It's not something that's new. It's an accumulation of a lot of small things that's coming to a head because naturally our water levels are coming up and our land's sinking, so we're more exposed to the water and more flooding. So we need to, echoing everybody that's spoken already, we need to step up our game. And, you know, we've already, you know, I feel like we've done a lot in drainage. We've put a lot of new pumps. We've got a lot of backup systems, but we still got a long ways to go. And echoing Darren, you know, I think a lot of it has to do with our lateral systems and the fact that they're overgrown. I mean, I've got some laterals in my district that have trees that are 60, 80 feet tall in the ditch. Okay, so that didn't happen in the last 3 or 4 years. Okay, so you know we're gonna have to work at it more diligently to get the old stuff cleaned up and functioning. You know, there are a lot of, as I think Danny said, there's a lot of culverts. I'm sorry, John, that are undersized. You know, I have a whole subdivision in my district that's the only reason they flood. But when you tell them they got to pull their culverts out, then you got another fight. You know, the parish can't, you know, monetarily, we can't go in and change everybody's culverts that 40 years ago put the wrong size culvert, or the dynamics changed and these culverts need to be upgraded. We just, you know, we ain't got the funding to do it. I mean, you'd be, you know, you'd have the parish bankrupt before you get 10% done. But at the end of the day, that's the direction we got to go. That's the only way to solve these problems. So how we get there, you know, we're gonna have to step it up. But at the end of the day, you know, everything boils down to money. And you know, if you just don't have a big pile of money that you just dig at whenever you need it. So we do have to do some prioritizing, get the hot spots sooner than later. But the whole parish has work that needs to be done to it. And that's just my little take, and I'm gonna quit talking. Anybody else? Any no other lights? We're gonna move on. Public wishing to address the council. All the speaker cords that were turned in have already addressed the council. Appointments, committee reports, Public Services Committee.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Public Service Commission meeting held June 22nd, 2020, and which I have one public hearing, and that public hearing will be changing the name of Weatherford Drive to Rouse Drive. And that public hearing will be June 15th, 2020, 6:30.
Motion by Mr. Carl Harding, second by Mr. Darren Guidry. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion carries. Budget Finance Committee.
I'd like to make a motion tonight to read the following. The motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee meeting held on June 22nd, 2020, which caused one public hearing to introduce an ordinance to amend the 20 adopted operating budget, the 5-year capital outlay budget of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, and the following mines provided related matters. Ashland Landfill Road Extension, $250,000. JAG 2019 award, $12,017. Homer Police Department, Louisiana Commission Law Enforcement grant, $375,000. Animal shelter donation, $2,500, and calling the public hearing on said matter Wednesday, July 15, 2020, at 6:30 p.m.
Motion, Mr. John Navy.
Second.
Second, Mr. John Amity. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion carries. Policy, Procedure, and Legal Committee.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Policy, Procedure, and Legal Committee held on June 22nd, 2020. I have one public hearing to introduce an ordinance to authorize the donation of land located at 507 Madison Street, Houma, Louisiana, under the terms and conditions of the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, buyout program. Authorize the parish president to execute any and all documents necessary to effect the donation to Options for Independence, and calling a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, July 15, 2020, at 6:30 p.m.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Amity. Second, Mr. Harding. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion carries. Appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions. Item A is a Recreation District 2-3, one vacancy due to resignation. Mr. Ed Bice IV submits an application and resume for consideration. Motion by Mr. Gerald Michel to appoint Mr. Bice, second by Mr. Darren Guidry. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion carries. Item B is Recreation District Number 11, 2 unexpired terms. Motion to hold, Mr. Derek Guidry.
Second.
Second, Mr. Harding. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion carries. Item C is Consolidated Waterworks District Number 1, 1 expiring term. District 2, Mr. Kenneth McGee Jr. has withdrawn his application and resume.
Motion to continue.
Motion to continue, hold, Mr. Harding, second, Mr. Darren Guidry. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion carries. Vacancies to boards and committees and commissions. Recreation District Number 6 has 2 expiring terms. Recreation District Number 11, 2 expiring terms. TGMC Hospital Service District Number 1, 3 expiring terms. You seconded it. Okay. All right. Announcements. Parish President's not here. Mr. Black, you want to speak? Okay. Council members. Mr. Davey.
I just want to thank Ochsner Health Clinic for actually providing the 2-day COVID testing. They actually did the swab and the antibiotic. Under those extreme weather conditions, they had over 200 residents that actually wait for testing. So I'm proud of Terrebonne Parish for being concerned and wanted to make sure that they are not affecting anyone with COVID. And that was done at the Buchananville gym. I also want to thank Chris Pulaski again, him and Angela Guidry, really trying to take care of me and Dirt, making us look like heroes back there with the splash park. I saw the final product and it looks beautiful back there, so I want to thank you again in the public. And also, I just want to do my due diligence being concerned. I don't know if it's correct or not. I know Steve Palmville was here, but someone told me that Walmart was was making residents come into the store wearing masks, and if they are, I'm proud of them. I really think that we need to really spark it up some more in reference to wearing a mask out in the public. We do see the increased numbers and some concern throughout the state. So, you know, Terrebonne Parish, please mask up. Thank you.
Mr. Danny Bowden.
Yeah, Mike, I want to kind of echo what we started saying towards the end of the thing. Public Works and David Rome and Carl and Rory and the whole group did an outstanding job today given the circumstances that they had, okay? I think this was less criticism and more frustration from us, because as it was said by a number of us, we got more calls today than we ever did before. But that's why we make the big bucks, okay? So in any event, y'all did do an outstanding job under extraordinary circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Babin. Mr. Toops.
Yeah, I would like to make an announcement. I just got a text from our utilities superintendent, Ernie Brown. As I said earlier, we had 9 telephone poles went out along Woodlawn Ranch Road this morning as part of the severe weather we had. He's changed 8 of the 9 poles thus far, and we anticipate having the electricity back on the entire Woodlawn Ranch Road area about 10 o'clock tonight. So I just wanted to make that last minute update. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Toops. And I just want to inform everyone, remind everyone to keep our law enforcement, first responders, military, veterans, and active and retired in your thoughts and prayers daily. Mr. Navy, you want to speak again?
I got one more thing.
Mr.
Don't forget to have your pet spayed or neutered. Thank you.
Okay, see no further lights, monthly engineering reports. Per Mr. Darren Guidry, second Mr. John Navy. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion adjourned. Mr. Danny Babin, second Mr. John Navy. All in favor? Any opposition? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.